Good afternoon. New Mexico's last two death row inmates want off the list. Their attorneys pled their case in front of the state Supreme Court today. But some of the victims' families says this latest court battle is like reliving a nightmare. News 13's Chris McKee was in the courtroom for the hearing and has a reaction from one of the victims' families.
Yeah, Kim, attorneys for Timothy Allen and Robert Fry argue their death sentences are now unconstitutional since the state repealed the death penalty. But some of the victims' families believe a jury has already decided the fate of the two men.
As well as
no one in this courtroom is arguing the innocence of convicted killers and death row inmates Robert Fry and Timothy Allen. But whether or not the two men should be put to death, that's now the question for the New Mexico Supreme Court.
We are here asking this court to find that the execution of Mr. Fry and Mr. Allen violate our state constitution.
Fry and Allen's attorney argued Monday that putting the two to death would be cruel and unusual punishment since the legislature repealed executions in 2009. They also argue that killing Allen and Fry would violate equal protection for the men because the legislature established a date when people could be executed.
Somebody with the identical characteristics who committed the identical crime 1 minute after midnight on July 1, 2009 would not receive the death penalty.
But the state disagrees.
this is a heavy burden.
The Attorney General's office says the Constitution allows for criminals to be sentenced under laws that existed at the time they were convicted.
This court does not sit as a super legislature with the power to uphold or strike down the laws of the state based on the court's own judgment as to the wisdom and propriety of such laws.
But for Darlene Phillips,
the most beautiful little redhead you've ever seen in your life.
the court hearing shouldn't happen. She's the mom of Sandra Phillips, who Timothy Allen killed after a kidnapping in 1994.
You know, the court of law has already decided this. Why do they get another chance to? Over and over again.
Justices will take the next several months to make a decision. Sandra hopes it will finally be the end.
He murdered my daughter. That's my baby.
The state Supreme Court justices have not set a timeline or a timetable on when they'll make a decision. If the death penalty is overturned, though, both would get life in prison. Kim, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Now, since 1976, when the U.S. Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty, New Mexico has only put one person to death. That was Terry Clark, who was executed in 2001.